Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Chris Hill. I'm with the marketing team here. And we've got a great discussion and demo plan for you around preventive maintenance and how manifest the digital work instructions can make that all better. I'm joined with a number of my colleagues, Joe, Matt, and Johnny, who are going to take you through this presentation. Just a couple notes. This is being recorded and we have everyone on mute just to deal with all the people here, but feel free to enter your Q&A, your questions in our Q&A panel, and then we'll have plenty of time to address all your questions at the end. So let me turn it over to Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Just as a way of introductions, my name is Joe Kluke. I lead North American sales operations and also work with the majority of our customers when it comes to customer delivery and success as well. I'll be walking you through the beginning of our presentation as we talk about preventative maintenance. But before we do that, I want to pass it over to Matt and Johnny to introduce themselves.
I'll go first. Hey, everyone. My name is Matt Borland. Let's get the camera on here. My role for Taqtile is North American sales and account management. So I help all of our customers in the US and Canada pretty much understand what we do and how we do it.
Hi everyone, I'm Johnny Gorvet. I'm a technical solution specialist based in London in the UK, Taqtile, but similar to Joe and Matt, I support our customers in Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
So to just cover off on the agenda for today, there are a few different things we're going to talk about, but mostly going to be focused on preventative maintenances and the challenges behind preventative maintenance. From there, we're going to get into how digital instructions could potentially help some of those challenges. But the majority of the time, we're going to be focused on a live demo, just showing you from beginning to end a scenario where someone might be going through preventative maintenance and what that might look like in a digital work instruction type platform. Then we're leaving a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. But I think Chris got slightly ahead of me, which is okay. But before we get started, just a little bit about us. I know there are some folks who have worked with us on the call here today, but there are others that maybe aren't as familiar. We've been around since 2011. So we're in the augmented reality space. That would put us in the grandpa category. We've been around for a long time. We've been doing a lot in the space. We were actually one of the initial launch partners with HoloLens, the initial one. So we've been doing this for some time. Here's our footprint. We are a global footprint. Our headquarters is in Seattle, Washington. But we do have locations in Paris and Sydney, also in Tucson. And I'm not going to go through all the different partners that we work with. This is just a snapshot of some of our technology partners and some examples of customers that we've worked with, either currently, in the past, or in the future. So to get into preventative maintenance and why preventative maintenance is such really an amazing starting point when it comes to a digital transformation and going from a paper-based or even a PDF-based work instruction. And we've broken it into two different categories here. The two different categories are operational metrics and training and knowledge metrics. And the reason why I start with operational metrics is that if you're working with digital work instruction, you're bringing in new technology into an organization, one of the challenges that you run into is tracking and providing some kind of ROI and having metrics that back that up. And many of our customers do start in training and knowledge capture, but and although that we've had tremendous results, it is very difficult to track in a short amount of time what the ROI, what the benefit is, and extrapolate that for any kind of expansion that you might want to do. With our product, we are not only a training platform, but also an operational. So the key benefits that we're focused on here for preventive maintenance is reduction in breakdowns. Some of the studies out there are showing 25 to 40% reduction in breakdowns. Emergency repair calls, 36% fewer if you're on top of and you're not carrying a backlog of preventative maintenance, that you have 36% fewer emergency repairs. And that also every $1 spent saves an additional $5. So when you're ahead on your preventative maintenance or you're on time with your preventative maintenance, it's preventing challenges that are going to occur down the road, and they're also going to be costly challenges. If you have an emergency repair or a down machine, how does that affect SLAs that you might have? How does that affect production on the line? These can be massive savings, and that's why for every $1 spent, you're saving $5 in the future because of these emergency repairs that might happen or breakdowns that occur that affect production. Next slide. A few key maintenance use cases that, and there's quite a few of them for preventative maintenance. These are 9 that you're seeing here. I've highlighted 4. But what we see is that equipment inspections, vehicle inspections, filter replacement, safety considerations are very good starting points when it comes to transforming your instructions into a digital format. Having a record of those, having a very common way of going through these, having something that's linear is very important. Something that's step by step, easy to follow, but maybe you don't have the appropriate information to make it easy for your employees to be able to do that. But those are the top 4 that we see that are out there. Is this standard, filter replacement, cleaning procedures. We do have a customer today that we're working with on a cleaning procedure on lines. They have multiple lines. You can imagine in food and safety that if you don't have a clean line, you open yourself up for massive risk and massive liability if something occurs with the food. Vehicle inspections, if vehicles go down because you didn't do the inspections, then that poses a massive challenge to delivery or any kind of operations that you might be doing with those vehicles. And then safety, I think, is self-explanatory. Having a way to systematically walk people through safety and doing verifications, you want to make sure your people are safe. That's the bottom line. So these are the 4 that we see the most adopted when talking about converting paper, converting nothing into some form of digital work instruction. So a few areas that we see that why people fail, and I think this goes with the theme that I've been talking about the last couple of slides, is that customers have outdated instructions. They're not kept up to date because it's hard to keep an up-to-date instruction because most of the time you're updating the entire instruction manual and not updating just a component. So you might be incomplete. Part of it might be outdated, but other parts might be up to date. So it's very hard to stay on top of this. So you have outdated instructions. You have people walking around with massive amount of knowledge in their head on how to complete these tasks. And no one has access to that unless you're working with them at the time. If you're on the day shift and someone else is on the night shift, that tribal knowledge is then trapped maybe at the day shift, but it's not getting to the night shift. So how do we capture that? And then validation. I think the last 3 here are validation. Did they actually do the work? How do you have proof that they did the work? Are they checking boxes? I'm not saying that employees are doing that, but I have heard that it does happen, that maybe something happened, something got in the way, and they couldn't spend the amount of time they needed to spend on this verification or going through the checklist they need to do for an inspection, and something gets missed. And then lack of traceability. Who did that? When did they do it? How long did it take? This is good for accounting, but it's also good for down the road, just coaching and mentoring and trying to bring people to the next level in the organization, understanding what that continuous improvement track might look like. But without having some kind of traceability, some kind of accounting back there, some kind of audit trail, many of these preventative maintenance challenges continue to build on top of themselves because you don't have a good record of what was done. And then, God forbid, something actually bad happens and they have to track it back to what actually took place to cause that issue, a breakdown or an accident or something like that. If you don't have accounting on who did what and when they did it, it's very hard to track that back to the source, which then means you can't solve the problem because you don't know where the problem occurred. So on the digital work instruction side of things, we, and not just us, but other companies that operate in the digital work instruction space, we operate in a way that creates consistency. You want everyone in the organization doing the same thing the same way. You want to take those best practices, that tribal knowledge that someone else has that does it the best, and you want to institute that into your digital work instructions. So you create top of the line consistency across the organization. Also, always current. If you have a digital work instruction, you might be just updating one step or one picture or one part of the text. Very easy to do in a digital format. If you're dealing with a paper-based system or even a PDF type system, you're typically having to upgrade the entire document and then republish it out. And people might still be working on the older version if they've already printed it out. And then lastly, like I mentioned before, trackable results. You got to have trackable results. You have to have digital work instructions allow you to have that audit trail. They allow you to pinpoint when something was done, where it was done, how it was done, all the data associated with that, even evidence that you might need them to capture along the way so you can go back and validate that something was completed. These are all critical things that digital work instructions allow you to do. And then lastly, I didn't highlight this one, but remote assist, maybe you think you've got the perfect digital work instructions, but that's not the reality. Sometimes it takes a little trial and error to get to the point where you feel like you have very strong digital work instructions. But if you're in the situation where somebody still gets confused on how to complete that task, now you have remote assist. You could quickly call someone and identify what the problem is in a see what I see type video, which you'll see in the demonstration coming up. A little bit about Manifest for those of you who haven't talked to before. What we find when working with customers is customers have 3 different buckets they're typically working in. Some are jumping way into the modern already. They're not quite there yet. I haven't met a company yet that's done full digital transformation for digital work instructions yet, but some have converted paper documents into PDFs. Some have made those PDFs searchable, added pictures, maybe they have videos here and there. So they have made some progress into the digital realm. And then others we work with, even some of the most sophisticated companies you would think of are still working with a piece of paper. But the nice thing about Manifest is you could start with all 3 of these. You could start from scratch in a 100% modern type scenario. You could start with PDFs and digital documents that you have today, which you're going to see in the demo here in a second, where you could start converting that and moving that into more of a step-by-step procedure. And you can also use traditional documents that you have today. You can just PDF bookmark those to an individual step so the data is available, and really you're using that as the backstop. So you have your job aid, which is Manifest, showing you here's a picture, here's a video, here's some text, here's the very specific things you need to do. But if you need that detailed data that sits underneath that, you already have that bookmark to the specific page in the PDF in that step as well, so they can access it and pull that up. So the point here is we can meet you at any place that you might be. I mentioned these 3. This is the last slide before we get into the actual live demo. But traditional content, you can have that in a step of a procedure. You can bring in the manuals. You can bring in these already traditional type documents that you might have. But now you're pairing it with photos, videos, audio notes, animation, bringing in augmentation, bringing in augmented reality, bringing in spatial markers. So now you can start to bring in this enriched media experience that makes it very easy for people to understand what they need to do at that step. And then lastly, many times, like I'd said, we start with training. So training is a good place for people to start. Training on preventative maintenance, training on operational equipment. But now when you start to move into operations, you need some other tools. You need to be able to capture evidence, you need to be able to mark faults, you need to be able to track performance, you need to have some kind of asset history that sits behind that, or work history. So now it becomes not just a training tool, but also an operational tool that can be used inside your organization. So that's Manifest. You've heard me talk about it. So at this point, let's show it to you. I want to pass this over to Matt and Johnny and let them walk you through their demonstration. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. So, steal the spotlight here. Just to outline the scenario of what we're going to see here. So let's all just imagine that Johnny and I work for the same company. My role is a supervisor, maintenance supervisor. Johnny is a maintenance technician. At our company, we've been using paper SOPs. However, they're just falling short. I'm going to start using Manifest because I really want to make sure that procedures are consistent. They're done in the same way every time. I also really want to make sure that they're trackable after the fact. And as a supervisor, I am fully aware of who did what and how it went. So what you'll see in this demonstration is I'm going to start with Manifest Maker. I'm going to create a standard operating procedure. After that, I'm going to publish it to Manifest, and Johnny's going to be able to use it on his iPad application. After that, it'll come back to me. We'll see how I use the Manifest for Web interface to audit his findings and make additional changes to procedures, and then we'll pass it back to Johnny for a final headset demonstration. So when you search for Manifest on the App Store, you'll find two applications. I like to use Manifest Maker for procedure creation. Let's go ahead and create a new template. I'm going to give it a name. This is going to be the TB20 daily maintenance. And again, at my company, we've been using paper-based work instructions for a long time. So I already have the procedure defined. I'm going to use the auto-generate steps function in Manifest to pull this procedure into Manifest Maker. Sometimes I also use videos or Scratchpad to auto-generate steps. Today, I'm going to use the manual. So I'm going to upload my file. I'm going to give it a search criteria. And let's start generating this. So what's happening right now is Manifest Maker's AI engine is really just scraping that document for this specific search term. And this is what we came up with. So I'm going to add these steps to my template. Each step, you'll notice, has a title as well as a text note that goes with it. And from here, I can do things like reorder steps how I'd like. I can delete steps. So I'm going to delete these top two steps. Now, these procedure steps look great. However, I want to enhance them with extra content. I have a video that I captured of an SME going through the entire procedure. So let's upload that. I'm also going to upload a few pictures, a document. Sometimes I'll upload 3D models. In this case, I won't. And once that video loads up, we can start taking clips from the video and attaching them to the appropriate steps. We'll just give this 1 second to load. Okay, so here we have a 2-minute video, and I just want to take the individual clips from each step here. So I can use my finger to drag and drop the right boundaries. I'm going to start my clip there. Perfect. So let's do a 45-second clip for step 1. Step 2, I'm going to do another clip for the next. Looks great. Okay, so now I've attached video clips to each individual step of the procedure. Let's add some pictures. So I often use Manifest Maker because it includes this really easy to use Photoshop-like capability. It's called Markup. So here I have an image that I took previously just of showing the technician what proper use of the greasing fittings looks like. And now I'm going to mark it up. So I've got some basic text here. Let's do that. And I'm just going to use some kind of drag and drop and pinch functionalities to make it the right size. We've got some canned shapes. Let's do another one. This one I'm going to make green. So Manifest Maker just makes it really easy to add the annotations that I need to all the pictures. One final thing that I'll do here is I want to add a PDF document. So We created this procedure from the document. However, sometimes for compliance reasons, or if I just really want to give a technician access to the original manual, I can actually bookmark a specific page here. So I'm going to bookmark page 7 of this manual. That way, on this step, that'll be instantly referenceable. Now my procedure is good to go. I'm going to go ahead and upload this to the manifest domain, and Johnny's going to be able to pick it up on his iPad.
Thanks, Matt. So I'm going to take over from here. So as Matt said, we work for the same company. And in this scenario, I'm the technician who's completing the job. What I've done at the moment is I'm actually logged into my iPad of Manifest, the iPad application of Manifest. And immediately, as soon as I'm logged in, I'm taken to the work tab. So you can see at the top, we're on the work tab. And I can from here see all the assigned work that I have, any in progress work, and any completed work as well. So on the right-hand side, you can see I've been at work today. I've been working on a rotor, a filter pump, and I've already done one task on the TB20 landing gear. So I did a quick inspection earlier. But what I also have is one task in the assigned bucket. So my last task of the day, which is the task which Matt made earlier, the daily maintenance. So what I'm going to do is select this work package, and I get brought up a nice clean view of all the steps and all the tasks I'm going through. So I can actually scroll through on the left all of the steps and see we've got 5 easy steps for me to complete this maintenance. But the last thing I'm going to do before actually starting the job is I'm actually just going to navigate to the top of this page and open up the asset tab and just make sure that I'm actually working on the correct asset for this job. Again, I don't want to be doing this on the incorrect asset or doing this on a piece of equipment that's already had this maintenance done to it. So that all looks good to me. So what I'm going to do first is hit this start job button, and that's going to tick off my timer. So my job's now being tracked and I can get started. So the very first thing that I have is a quick overview of the tools that are going to be needed for this job. I can see that I need a socket wrench, grease gun, gloves, clean rag, and a Phillips screwdriver. I can make sure I've got all of those, do a quick pre-check, and once I'm ready, I can actually hit this done button and move to the next step nice and quickly. So with that being done, I can quickly see again that my next step is to secure the linkage connections of the landing gear. I get a nice clean video in the center that I can play. And I can maybe give that a quick pause so I can keep up with what's Matt saying. But in the meantime, I'm actually just going to swipe across once and also see that there's the marked up photo that Matt made earlier. So I've had a lot of information here. I've been told to secure the linkage connections. I get a nice quick video showing me what to do, and then a really clear photo, which has been marked up. But just to make sure I'm doing this completely correct and I am working in the right area, I'm also going to hit the button at the bottom right, which is switch to AR. And that's going to allow me to see some augmented reality content. So I'm just going to hit this scan QR button. And you should now see I have this landing gear in front of me. I can see it's definitely the one I'm working on. And all I need to do is bring my iPad to this QR code, and a nice virtual one will appear on top of it. And I can actually see that I've now got a quick guidance of where I'm doing this task. If at all, and I ran into an issue of not knowing where the next step would be, I can actually just, if I look away from my iPad, I get a nice clean view, if you see at the bottom of my screen, of where the next step is for this procedure. So I can see over here that I've got a quick overview of where I'm doing this task, which is on the linkage connections. And I can still open up all that content on the left, so I can still see the marked up photo, and I can zoom in here and double check that tightening of the bolt is in the correct location. I'm not going to do the procedure just in the way that Matt was saying, but I can actually see that's been done correctly there. So that being said, I can actually move on to the next step by hitting the done button on the right-hand side. And that actually brings up the next step. So once again, we have some AR content, which is provided with just some annotation arrows. So I can see there's 3 arrows pointing at where the Zerk fittings are. I can actually move around the asset and see that these are pointing exactly where I need them to be. So really guiding me of exactly where to look. And just like before, I've now known where I'm doing the job, but I do also need to know some additional content, some rich media, some standard content. So I can actually open up another photo, see where all the grease fittings are, and actually see this is the photo Matt made earlier. I can zoom in and see what sealed and what are not, sorry, what are seated and what are not seated zerk fitting is. So again, I can get nice and close and actually see exactly what these are all talking about. So again, I'm not going to go through and actually grease them, but I can see if they have been greased, they're appropriately acceptable for this. But what I now need to do is I actually need to leave some evidence. So for this, I need to leave evidence that this procedure has, or this greasing has been done correctly. So what I'm going to do is on the right-hand side, where the add evidence button is nice red, I'm going to select that, and I can actually now leave some evidence that the greasing is done. I could be made to leave a photo or a video or an audio note, but for this scenario and this step, I'm actually being given the option. So I can leave whatever evidence I want. So for now, I'm just going to leave a quick text note saying zerk fittings greased appropriately, approximately, nope, appropriately, just like that. And then I can hit the save button, and that's now left some evidence for this job being completed. So I can verify that the greasing has been done, and when I'm ready, I can now move on to the next step. This next step, again, we've now being able to just inspect the wheel, just make sure that everything's okay and there's no issues with the wheel, there's no imperfections, there's no damage. Again, if I look away, I am navigated to exactly where the task I'm completing is taking place. On this step though, although I can still open up a video and a photo marking exactly where the failing or dry rot or low tread would be taking place or any imperfections, I can also importantly open up, as Matt said, some of the pre-existing manuals. So this is actually a manual directing exactly to the page I need, which I can actually see. I can see the step. I can see it, step 4, where I'm inspecting the wheel for any imperfections. I can get a clear view of where this wheel is and any additional information I need from the manual. So at any point, maybe for this procedure, I've actually been working with one hand on the iPad the whole time. But perhaps for this one, for this step, I actually need to look at the wheel with both hands and give it a thorough checking. So I'm going to switch out of AR mode, and in the background, I can do this check. I can actually look for any imperfections, and I've actually found one. So just on the front side of the wheel, I found a small bit of damage that I think is worth raising as a fault. It's worth raising as an issue to either a senior technician or someone who is going to come and help replace this and repair this fault. So what I'm going to do is on the right-hand side, I'm going to select this add fault button, and I'm going to give a brief fault description. So I'm just going to say wheel damage. And then I'm also going to leave a quick photo. So I could leave a video note, which would be a lot of information, but I think a photo note would be acceptable for this. So I'll leave a quick photo. Again, we'll jump into the back-facing camera and I will just highlight that just there. So I've taken a quick photo of the wheel. Now, although this isn't the best photo, we can't quite clearly see any of the damage. What I can actually do is use up some of the markup tools. So I can take a photo, hit the pen, and I can actually start to use some markup images. So I'm going to select a symbol, and then going to select the red color, and I'm actually just going to highlight exactly where the damage is on this wheel. So I can see there's a little cut in the wheel just there, and I'm going to highlight it, and then I'm going to say with my text note, small damage here on the wheel. Enter that text, and I'm going to give it a nice clean background just so it can nice and cleanly be seen on the wheel. I'm then going to hit save, and we've now added this photo to the fault. So we've added a quick description of what the fault is, we've added a photo, and what I'm also going to do is leave a custom fault code. So I know that for this device, this asset, there is a set of custom fault codes. So just at the bottom, I can see general visual inspection codes, and I can actually go through and see there's 1 to 7 rotor, left side, structural, neo blade, wiring, and 7 is the exact one I need. So wheel damage, I can hit save, and I've created a really detailed and rich fault. But there's one more thing I can do. So what I can also do is leave an AR marker. So I can leave an augmented reality 3D enabled spatial marker so that when someone comes to replace this or repair this fault, they can use an iPad or a headset to see exactly where this issue is. So again, I'm going to select the place AR marker. I'm going to hit the scan button, and then I'm going to associate myself with the asset again. And what I'm going to do is it jumps me back into the steps. On the right-hand side, I'm going to hit marker, And I'm going to actually place this fault marker just next to the wheel. So the fault we found was just here, and I'm going to pin it just like that. We can now see that's pinned just where the fault was on the wheel. So we're really giving as much information as possible to the end, to whoever's going to come and resolve this, whether it's the next technician or someone who's higher trained than I am. So I'm going to hit save. And with that, we've created a really nice rich fault that I can save. And with that being done, I can simply hit the next button to our final step. And our final step here is to call our supervisor. I have some notes here on how to do that, so I can bring up a description telling me how to do this if this is one of the first times going through this procedure. But for now, I'm actually going to quickly switch out of AR mode, and I'm confident that I don't need to call my supervisor, but I will send them a quick message. So I'll open up on the right-hand side my Connect window. I'll bring up Matt, and then I'll send him a quick message saying TB. I'll type it correctly. TB 20 maintenance done, and send that message. With that being done, I can hit the done button on the last step, and my procedure will be completed. And I can actually return to the job board and see it's now being completed put into the completed bucket, and it's ready to be reviewed. With that, I can pass back over to Matt, who can review this on Web Portal.
So after Johnny has completed any type of procedure in Manifest, as a supervisor, I want to understand how that job went. So I'll typically use the Manifest web portal to review any work that's been completed, and I'll actually be able to audit specific jobs. So let's go to the work history tab. Here's that daily maintenance procedure that Johnny just completed. I can understand who did this, what serialized asset they were working with, even how long they took to complete the procedure. I do notice that a fault was annotated, and I want to find out what that fault was. So here I can see he took about 10 minutes to do the maintenance procedure. I can review the evidence that he left. I also see that there was a fault on step 4. So let's review that. He said there was wheel damage. He attached a picture. I want to make sure this wheel gets replaced. So I'm going to go ahead and assign some work against that. That's one thing that's really nice about the fault workflow in Manifest is we can actually assign a procedure and a job against this task. And once that job is completed, I'll receive a notification and know that this fault was resolved. So sometimes I have a tire change procedure. In this case, I don't have it in my catalog. So I'm just going to use a task. So I'm just going to give a senior maintenance technician the instructions to change the tire. And just like how Johnny found this on his web board, his job board on the iPad application, John will log in and be able to find this job. Finally, I can also use the web browser for Manifest Connect. So if there's ever a case where I want to send a text note or a video call with one of my technicians, I can easily access them here. One thing that I skipped over, and I also use the Manifest web interface a lot for, is more advanced authoring capabilities. So Manifest Maker is really excellent for its AI capabilities. However, there's some things that I'd rather have my desktop computer, my mouse, and my keyboard for. So if I ever want to make a change to an existing procedure, I will often create a draft of that procedure. That way I can author it and make modifications while maintaining the published version. And I can also do things like requiring evidence. If I want to make sure that a video is captured on a specific step, it's really easy for me to do that here. I can also add in more advanced capabilities like template notes. That's where I can embed procedures inside of other procedures. I can also upload 3D models and play animations. I can use a choice note, which is the ability for Manifest to support branching logic. So when I'm creating more advanced troubleshooting procedures, choice notes come in handy. So that's really what I use the manifest web browser interface for. And assuming that Johnny is ready, we'll pass it back to him for the final headset demonstration.
Yeah, so I'm going to take control now. And what I'm going to do is go through the same procedure that we were working on just then, but I'm going to show it from a headset point of view. And this is mainly due so we can show what hands-free experience looks like. So with that, hopefully you can see my screen now. Again, please call out if you can't. So I'm hands-free. So what I'm on now is the Apple Vision Pro, but we also support lots of different headsets. And the idea being that I can now do a procedure with my hands completely free and available to complete the tasks, do the greasing, inspect the wheel, all through using augmented reality. So what I've done is I've already brought up my procedure. I can see I've been assigned this daily inspection or daily maintenance. And just like before on the iPad, I can actually review all this content. So I can review every step. So the tools needed, secure linkage connection, and then I can see the final step is to call my supervisor for sign off. So when I'm ready and I've reviewed all these steps, what I can do is I can start my job. And the very first thing, just like before, is I'll need to scan this QR code. So what I'm going to do is get down next to it. And then I'm going to hit start job button, just like this, and scan the marker. And just so we've been given quick scan the marker. Oh, I just quickly need to do that one more time. Scan the marker. And as soon as we start, I can see I have my job started. The first task has just been come up in front of me, which is the tools that I needed. But the first thing I want to do is I can obviously see my job board in the background. I maybe don't want to see that all the time. I want to focus on the work I'm doing. So I'm going to minimize that and just keep it nice and clean over to the right. With that being said, my job started now. I'm hands-free and I can go through this procedure. So the first task is asking me to check the tools and make sure I've got them. I can open up a quick photo. So just like we did previously, I can open up this photo and I can see all the tools available that I'm going to need for this job. And when I'm done, I can simply hit the done button really nice and easily, and that will jump me to the next step. And this next step, just like before, is a quick overview of where I'm doing this task. So I have a nice description telling me what to do. So secure linkage connections. And then I also have some AR guidance guiding me to this linkage connection just on top of the connection there. If I ever want to move anything around and make my space a bit cleaner and safer or to how I like it, I can actually move any of these panels. So maybe I want to move it a bit further to the right so it's a bit further away from the asset. It doesn't get in my view. And then what I can do, just like before, is I can actually open up, say, a photo note. And maybe I want to bring this photo note over and just place it in front of my connection. So I can really create a custom work environment while keeping my hands free. And I could then do this job, do this task with the photo or a video right next to my screen. So I can create a nice custom environment. And then when I'm ready, just like before, I can move to the next step. So I can hit the done button and that will jump me to my third step. And this step, we can actually see, again, if I move around to the right, you can see I'm being guided to apply the grease fittings just on top of these bolts here. So maybe I want to have a bit more information on how to do this, and very easily I can have a photo appear with all the greasing fittings, another one appear with, again, the correct and not correct seated of the Xerc fittings. So I can start to create a nice custom environment and actually do this task. And at this step, just like the last step, I am also being made to leave some evidence. So just like before, I'm actually just going to tap this open and I'm going to leave some evidence. So just like the last time I did this task, I am actually happy with just leaving a text note. I don't think I need to leave a photo or a video, but I could, again, using the front-facing cameras of the headset, I could leave a nice photo or a nice video, nice close quarters photo of the greasing I would have done. But for now, I'm just going to leave a quick text note. I'm going to hit add text note, and I could type it out. Obviously on the headset, the keyboard is not as intuitive as an iPad or a laptop, but for me, I'm also going to use audio to text. We have that enabled pretty good. So I'm just going to say, greasing is appropriately done. and then I can hit enter. And then with that being done, I can just hit OK, and that will jump me to being able to move to the next step. So I've left some evidence, I've done my task, I reviewed the content, and then I can jump to the next step. And for this one, just to make sure we have full consistency in what I was doing from iPad to the headset, I can see that I'm being asked to inspect the wheel tire tread. So I can move around, and I can do the full 360, looking around this whole tire. I can see everything. And for this step, maybe I also want to open up that manual. So I want to bring up a bookmark, and I can see there's a manual here. So just like before, I maybe want to open up a PDF manual, and I can see, I'm going to bring this nice and close to the wheel, but I can see that this manual has been brought up, and I can actually review this. And if at any point I want to cycle through this manual, you can see we're on page 7 of 7, I can actually just cycle back nice and easily. So I can review that manual, but again, just like before, I am just going to leave a quick fault because I found that imperfection and I want to make sure that it's been raised as an issue. So just a similar way on the iPad, I can select these 3 dots, the option dots, and then I can select add fault. And that's going to bring up a separate screen that allows me to leave an AR marker, an AR fault marker. So just like before, I'm actually going to pin this just to the right of the wheel because that's the general location. And I'm going to leave a leader line to just guide me to where the issue is. And then I'm going to leave a quick title, again, using audio to text. So I'm going to say wheel damage. And then just like before, I'm also going to leave a visual inspection code, which will be for the wheel. Done. And then I could obviously just on the iPad, I could leave a video, a photo, or an audio note as needed. But for the moment, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to hit done. And that's going to save that fault. And you can see we have a fault saved at the top. So I could review that. I could change that as needed. But I'm happy with that for the moment. So what I'm going to do is hit the done button. And this is going to jump me to my final step, which is to call my supervisor. So on my last procedure on the iPad, I was happy to just send him a quick message, tell him I completed. But actually, maybe for this step, I actually am going to call him. Again, maybe I need to get a verification that the task was done correctly. So I can actually do that on the headset as well. So I can open up these options, open up the Connect window, and I can search quickly, search for Matt. So it's loads. Or alternatively, what I can do is open up my dashboard and I can open up a Connect window here. And on this Connect window, I can actually see an incoming call. So Matt obviously heard that I needed some support, and I can click video call just here, and you can see, I'll mute that, and you can see we've initiated a quick video call. So Matt will be able to see my view. Again, there you can see Matt has just appeared on my view. So I could say hello to him, I get my support, and I could say, Matt, so I've completed my task. I found a fault on the wheel, but can you just double check that everything's been done correctly? And then I can look up and see all the tasks which you completed. And with that being done, Matt's happy, I'm happy, so I can quickly end the call. And then with that being said, I can complete and my job's being completed. I get a nice tick in the center and I can review my job. So I can review the task I did, which took me 7 minutes on the TB20. I can see all the steps I completed. I can also importantly see the evidence I left. If I wanted to review that, I could quickly open it. And then I can also review the fault. So I can review all my content, and then when I'm done, I can continue with my day's work. And with that being said, this procedure would also be able to be seen on the web portal, the same as the iPad as well.
So I know we're pretty much out of time at this point. So we want to, first of all, thank anybody that has to drop. We will be open for questions. But these are just a couple of different programs that we offer that we wanted to touch on just briefly before we let you go. We do have a training quick start that includes, it's a small package just for folks that are just wanting to want a little help from us, but want to essentially just kick the tires. So we have a training quick start package. We have 2 rapid insight programs, one that's light and one that's a little more extensive that we offer. And those are mostly meant for proving out use cases, creating metrics, quantifiable data. Like I talked about in the beginning, operational procedures are great for this because you can get that quantifiable data that can then be recorded and then hopefully extrapolated across multiple sites or multiple groups. And then lastly, if you are a guides current customer today, we do have some programs and some testing available for migrating guides that you might have today over to Manifest.
Okay, so this is the end of our presentation. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A panel. We've had a couple come in while we've done the demo. Before we do that, or just to give you a little bit of time to submit your questions, let me just make a comment. We have a lot of new software available that's become available in the last few weeks, and we encourage you to check it out. I'll start from the bottom first and then go back up. We have a new version of Manifest Maker. That's our free iPad app. It's on the App Store. You can go ahead and hit that QR code and download it. We've updated with more AI functionality. So all the stuff that Matt showed you in terms of transforming a manual, a PDF into a step-by-step guide, that's all available and in the app. And we encourage you to go and download that and check that out. Very cool. And then yesterday we released 4.2, the latest version of Manifest across all our platforms. It's a point release. It's one of our smaller releases, but it's packed with a bunch of really key features, a number of features that enable OEMs and contract manufacturers to manage multiple customers under a single domain, and then a bunch of UI, UX enhancements, including making AR content more accessible on the iPad. So really 2 great releases, and we encourage you to check them both out. So with that, let's move to Q&A. I think we've answered some in the Q&A panel, but Joe, I'll throw this one out to you. Someone's asking, we obviously used iOS devices here in the demo. We love the Apple devices. They're easy to use, they're well-known, they're familiar, often they're already deployed within an environment. So we love those, but we also strive to give customers a choice. So Joe, I don't know if you want to chat a little bit about like our strategy and then what other devices we support.
So for the time being, when it comes to Manifest Maker, so we have a couple different products, so I'll answer that in a couple different ways. We have Manifest Maker, so that's going to be available only in the Apple Suite today. Long term, that might change, but as of today, that's how it's going to be offered. As far as Manifest, the core platform, you can use it on any desktop, anywhere you can access the web browser. Today, we have a native app on iOS, but we do also operate on a multitude of headsets. I think Chris originally showed a slide that said DigiLens is one of them, but we also have MetaQuest. We also have HoloLens, Magic Leap, some other experimental builds that are out there as well. But those are going to be the primary platforms of today. But as new devices come out, we're going to be testing and experimenting on those types of devices. We have sophisticated software from a headset perspective. So it can't be a very low-end device. It has to be a higher-end type device like the Magic Leap, like the HoloLens, like Meta, like Apple Vision Pro, like DigiLens. That's why we've chosen those platforms, because they give you the full experience that we offer. However, there's going to be more headsets coming out this year, and we'll continue to work with those as well. Hopefully that answers your question, but long-term, meaning in the next, let's call it 6 months, I think one of the plans from a more tablet 2D type scenario is to offer everything web-based and have it formatted for all device types. So if you had an iPhone or you have other phones that are out there, other tablets that are out there, you'll be able to access all the instructions. And in fact, in the future, you'll be able to use all the augmented reality features as well in a web-based experience. So any device that can access the internet will be able to be used with our platform.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Joe. John Matthew, I know you're on, if you are able to talk, I'm going to give you this question. Maybe you can just expound. Someone's asking about language support, and John is our lead sales person over in Europe, so he gets this question a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I answered in the chat, any language is supported in the content creation piece. If you want to put step-by-step instructions in front of folks in any language, it's just about putting those instructions in that language while you're creating the content. I also mentioned that the majority of the controls on any of our head-mounted devices are icon-based, so it's pretty easy to learn those icons. You can hover over them. We are willing to support other languages for controls, but that's a one-off, one-on-one conversation. So if you're interested in a multi-language version of Manifest, just reach out to me or Joe, and we can certainly talk through that and just understand your use case and how we can make that available to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. And then Joe, maybe one more for you that we'll end on because we're running up against time. But we obviously covered maintenance and preventative maintenance pretty deeply here. But can you talk a little bit about other use cases that you see customers using Manifest for?
The main use cases today are going to be for any kind of maintenance and any kind of training. So training, something physical, something that people need to be walking around. They don't need to be, obviously you could use it at a desktop, but the best experience is going to be when you're actually mobile out on a factory floor or out in the fields trying to get through a task. So those are going to be the primary use cases. It is step-by-step digital work instructions. So it could be applied to anything. It just depends on what you're trying to do for those instructions. But the main use cases are going to be maintenance, inspection. Anything that's linear is going to be the low-hanging fruit, meaning it's something that today is step by step. That's why preventative maintenance is a good one, because typically those procedures are very step by step and they need to be done in a very particular way, and you need to have a record of that. Inspections are also the same way. Training is typically the same way as well, where you want people to learn the same way over and over again. As you get into more dynamic type procedures, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just takes longer to create them because there's a dynamic nature to directionality. It's more of a choice note type scenario like Matt showed you earlier, is there are different directions depending on what you find as you're going through it. So you can create those. It just takes longer to do that. So typically our customers will start with training, move into more preventative maintenance inspection, and then as they're doing that, they're also starting to build some break fix, some more complex troubleshooting type procedures. That's typically what our customers are doing today. I think I'll also just say cleaning procedures. I mentioned that earlier. We do have one client that uses it for cleaning. If you're in the food and beverage space or you're doing food manufacturing, cleaning all the equipment on a regular basis is critical. Cleaning and making sure there's a record there that you've done the cleaning, that it's signed off on, that it's done the right way. That if you have new hires coming in, they need to be able to do it the right way. And you also need to know how, what's working, what's not working, and being able to track the individual steps and how long it takes people to complete those steps. That is a true benefit for continuous improvement.
Perfect. Thanks. So with that, we're going to wrap up. If you do have additional questions or want to talk more detail, feel free to reach out to us. Again, I encourage you to take a look at Manifest Maker. That's a quick, easy way to see and experience some of the stuff we're talking about. And then lastly, just keep an eye out for future webinars. We're trying to do this on a monthly basis, and we should have one in June. So thank you, everyone.